What's up, guys? Ben here bringing you another video today. Apologies, my voice is shocked. I am still here in Boston. Another one of these hotel room videos. I don't have many on my channel, but this is another one of them. I wanted to get this out right away. I had a fun time out Sunday night, but it's time for the post-major 2 tier list. I'm also going to talk about some very early roster media chatter. It's going to be some news, but it's not anything super buzzy, and I'll get to that later on in the video. But let's dive in and see how the power rankings are looking after the second major of the year. All right, we're going to start left to right. So we're going to start at the top with Toronto Ultra. They finished top 6 at this tournament, and I don't really know kind of where to place this Toronto team because I think they're really good. They're well-rounded in all the game modes, especially respawn. S&D looks good. This is 2 weekends in a row where I don't think they were the best team or one of the best teams on a Sunday, so I think they got a little bit of work to do when it gets to the weekend on land. I think they're pretty solid, and definitely I think I'm going to lead them in Sunday regulars. We're not going to leave them near the top, and we'll see how this shuffles when we get into it. Of course, that leaves us with Atlanta FaZe. These are your major 2 champions, and the reason that I'm going to have no hair on my head at the end of this month, if you haven't heard, I made a bet with Aches that if FaZe lost, I got $500, and if they won, I had to shave my head. And actually, Celium's going to shave my head. But talking about the Atlanta FaZe boys, what a crazy run for them. These guys have been trying to win a major, a championship for a year and a half now since Cold War champs. They finished second in so many events last year and just never got it done. And this year, in their second try, they were able to pull it off. And I think a lot of that comes off the back of some really good search and destroy play. They're on a crazy streak last time. I believe they won 15 of the last 16 searches, which is just absurd. S&D win chips, everybody always says that. It's very true in this case because their respawn is okay. Their control's good. The hard point is still work in progress. I think if I, asked the coaching staff, how would you rank how the team played this weekend? I don't think they're going to say A+, even though they won the tournament. I think there's still more to come for this team, especially in hard point. If they figure out, they might go on a little bit of a run here, but a great showing for the FaZe boys. Simp is back. Abizi might be the best player in the game. Austin and Slasher Litico doing his thing. I don't know why people think that he needs to be dropped on this team, but they've won and they move on as your major 2 champions and the #1 team in the CDL right now. Next up, we have New York, and this is another tricky one for me to figure out where to place. I'm gonna leave them in Sunday regulars, but they just had a weird tournament. They had a weird tournament, and I don't know if the travel delays in Texas, them getting stuck and not having all the controllers, is the reason that they kind of went out in top 8 at this tournament. I will also say their search has really been kind of lackluster down the stretch here for this major, and that's a real area of concern I have, but the respawn's been really good. So if they can kind of figure out their search game, I think they have a chance to win. I do think with better circumstances, they probably would have gotten top 6 this event, but I'm going to lead them in Sunday regulars for now. Let's see how this shuffles out, but like Toronto, they're sort of, they're definitely not what I would consider a top 3 team right now because we got to get to Thieves and Rocker in a second, but they're on the edge, and we'll see kind of how we shuffle people between categories. All right, we got Optic Texas, and a good showing for Optic Texas this weekend. I know some fans were like, this team should have made a final. They should be winning events, blah, 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 blah. I've been saying on this YouTube channel and on my Twitch for 2 weeks now that this team probably said top 6 is a realistic goal for this tournament. They got top 4. So I would say that they exceeded my expectations on that front. They are a good team. There's a lot of talent. They could definitely win with the squad. I think their limiter is the decision making. And I think especially for their subs, they generate a lot of pressure, but they don't always make the best of decisions. So for example, I think Pook really struggled at times on Saturday, and they were able to win despite that. But when I watch him on the map, he doesn't feel very comfortable unless he's kind of hitting frontline. And I love Shotzi, he's my boy. But the play that he made on that Fortress control was a massive mistake in trying to do a little too much and just kind of hold irons instead, or just kind of play your life in maps, top maps. So they've got to figure out how to be more disciplined. They're winning maps now by the skin of their teeth, Dashy dropping 40 and all of that. But a lot of questions around the team. I also think that Illy needs to put away the sniper sometimes in search. I personally think the sniping is a little bit overrated. And we're going to see like we saw last year in Vanguard, I think eventually teams are just going to put it away in most situations because you'd rather have an AR in your hands anyway. So let's see how Optic kind of counteracts. I'm going to leave them in Sunday regulars here because they're going to be going to Major 3. They have a really tough qualifying schedule, and we'll talk about that in a video later this week, but I think they're very good. I think they're going to get top 3 placing at the next event and probably make it to the final in front of that crowd. All right, let's keep moving and grooving. We got the Boston Breach. And a lot to say about this team. They got top 6. I think before I get into it with the squad, I want to say a little bit about methods. Obviously, with Boston not winning this tournament, and in general, Zin kind of went on our show and said that he was thinking about this anyway for a while, regardless if they win or lost, but he has actually stepped back and he's now retired from competitive Call of Duty. There was a nice moment on the stage where he was saying goodbye, and I feel bad for Zin because I think he wanted a couple more chips before he retired, but best of wishes to Zin on what's next. Obviously, we'll try and get him on the flank more often. He was a one-time guest of the year on our show, but let's be honest, he's probably going to Optic, probably been hanging out a lot with Seth. I'm going to try and get an interview with Zin. Let's kind of pick his brain and see what he's doing next. But anyway, in regards to Boston, I think this team is still a lot to like about this team. They still can't finish. They literally, I've never seen a team of this quality, because I think in terms of the top in this team, they're just insane with their speed and aggression, decision making. They just can't, and when it comes to clutch moments, they just can't get it done. That Optic series is bad. Like, that Optic series got worse over the course of the 3 maps they lost. The first one was bad, this S&D was bad, and then, the control was just even worse. So, Boston obviously is going to make some changes now. Word on the block from people I've talked to is that it's Beans. I've also heard that they're still evaluating if they want to make any further changes beyond that. I'm a little skeptical on that. I think they may just make the one-person change with Beans and see how it goes. If they want to make further changes, they might do so after Major 3, but I'm going to leave them in potential contenders for now. I think Beans might make this team very fun to watch, even more so than now. They just got to find their consistency and learn to finish. All right, next up, we have the Minnesota Rocker. And what a journey for this team, considering how they started at Major 1. And I think a big turning point for them in the Major cycle was that reverse sweep. I believe it was against London, where they went down 0-2 and then came back. And that was while they had food poisoning. Like, I think that's a good team building moment. And they built a lot of trust as a squad. Ben Vance and Afro, their 2 subs, are playing great. And then we still haven't seen the best of Attach in Cammy. And I think with Rocker, they're so disciplined as a team that it really frustrates going to be a lot of these faster paced teams like a Boston or an Optic. I think they're not really going to be able to beat like your FAZEs and LA Thieves a lot, and we'll get to Thieves in a minute, just because they're as disciplined and also quicker. So like, it's just not a great matchup for Minnesota. But the way that Minnesota's playing right now, I like to see them in Sundays. There's gonna be a real shuffle here, so I'm actually going to move. How do I want to do this? I'm gonna move for now. Let's do this, and then we'll kind of reevaluate things. But that's where I want to put Minnesota in the top 4, because that's where they placed this weekend. They were good. Nice top 3 placing, good CDL points. Excited to see more from this Rocker squad going forward. Next up, we have the LA Thieves, and a great bounce back showing for the Thieves. A lot of people writing this team off. They are, I think, probably the second best team in the CDL right now. The biggest limiter for them is the situational decision making, and search is still kind of iffy. And we saw it in the series against FAZE. And they lost both controls in that series, which is weird. I know Estilo is like their auto ban. I think that's just kind of the core against the best of 7 that you just kind of always end up, if you're the team that's coming from losers, you may end up with your worst maps at the end of that series. But for Thieves, you know, we saw amazing plays from Sam Octane this weekend. Draza was doing his thing. Ken still got some work to do. I think he's still getting over the vertigo stuff, but you know, he had some really good spurts during this tournament. Obviously, Envoy was playing amazing. Their communication is by far the best in the entire league. And they had a big battle with FaZe. And I think we're going to see these 2 teams battling a lot this year. But glad to see the Thieves are back. They are, I think, going to be a mainstay now in the Sunday regulars category, because the teams are disciplined, man. They're just disciplined. They got some stuff to work on. But losing in a final is not too bad for them. Shout out there. All right, next up we have Los Angeles Guerrillas. And I'm actually going to move this team down the work to do category. They got top 8 at this tournament, and I just think that they had a nice kind of honeymoon period. I don't think they should make a change, although I have heard, like pretty much everybody in this bottom 5, that they're thinking about potential changes. They haven't really pulled the trigger on anything. It's just a normal sort of player to player combos that happen on Sunday nights and Saturday nights. But like GMs and the front offices really haven't talked to each other. So I think for LAG, the project is doing its thing. I think it's going to take them some time to figure it out. They have a weakness in a lot of the non-hardpoint game modes. They kind of got waxed in their last series on LAN. They just were a non-factor. They've got some mental block now, I guess, against Toronto. So yeah, the LG team is decent, but right now top 6 is kind of their ceiling. Let's see if they play better in Major 3, but they're not really in the class above some of these other squads. All right, we had the Seattle Surge, and what can I say about this Surge team that got dead last? They are horrible at S&D. I mean, that's really all we got to say. Their respawn is pretty good, but the S&D is the worst. Like, legitimately, there's nothing else for me to say. But the squad, I'm not going to waste too much time. A lot has been said about this team over the last few weeks. None of it's gotten fixed. They need to get better in search for the next major, or we may be finally talking about changes for this team. So we've got the Vegas Legion coming up next, and kind of opposite problem with Seattle. Like, I think their search is good. Got a little bit kind of, they were like looking like the #1 search team. Now FAZE is that. They're still in that top 3. The respawn is still the same problem. Like, their map pool is tiny. They're not consistent in terms of the pressure at the submachine gun level. They rely on big games from one of their players, just someone just popping off in order to win some of these maps. And yeah, it's going to be a win condition where they're going to get some top 6s, some top 8s as we saw in Major 1, but they're also going to have results like they had in this major cycle where they go 1-4 and then they, you know, they do nothing at the land. So work to do is where they're at. I would say they're kind of almost on the border of missing pieces, because I don't think with their current personnel that they're going to get past their ceiling that I've kind of spoken about, this top 6, top 8 thing. But I think they're more consistent than Florida and London. I don't really want to put them in that category right now, so I'm going to leave them in work to do. But yeah, I mean, I don't know with this Vegas team what they can do. They might be in pack-a-punch territory, and we'll see if they do anything before qualifiers pick back up again. I don't want to waste too much time on the 2 teams at the bottom, Florida and London, both teams that did absolutely nothing as well at this tournament and got dead last, and are both teams that, from talking to multiple people around the league, are like actively thinking about roster changes, shuffling things up. I think for both teams it's going to be potentially external options, but again, as I said earlier in the video, like, these are kind of active thoughts. They're not really in formal contacts with players. There's not money being discussed or buyouts being discussed. These are the classic Saturday, Sunday night conversations, because those teams were out early of talking to players and saying, would you be interested in coming over, all that stuff. I guess it's kind of like tampering, but you know, it is what it is. It's what happens in this league. But yeah, both teams have a lot of issues. Florida, the Dave Patty thing has just not worked out, and I think they need to really rethink how they want to build their team, because they are horrible at hard point. Like, there's just nowhere. And London's got no teamwork. I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on it. They're just bad. For both these teams, they may look slightly different next week when we get matches back up again, but they are rock at the bottom. All right, so let's take a look at this final list here. Do I want to make any changes? I'm going to put Rocker in front of Optic just so we match kind of the placings of this event, but I feel pretty good about this list. I think all the bottom 5 teams all have pretty clear issues. I think everybody potential contenders is probably good. It's just this is how the CDL is. And then I feel good about the top 4 right now. I think Optic could definitely be higher depending on how you think about this team's ceiling, but I want to see more from the decision making before I don't put them 4th on the list. But this is your tier list post Major 2. We'll give you more thoughts in future videos this week. So that's the video, guys. Apologies for my voice. I drank a lot last night. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm never drinking again. Nah, that's gassing it, but I did drink a lot last night. So that's why my voice is not feeling good or sounding good, but appreciate you guys sticking around. Let me know in the comments what you think of the video. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more. We have a lot of content this week. I'm doing a show with Chris Crowder, aka Replays, aka the coach of Atlanta FAZE, tomorrow, so check that out on his channel. We'll be doing more stuff on Twitch. I'm going to do more kind of Major 2 recap stuff this week as well, so be on the lookout for that. As always, guys, we will see you in the next one.